Fox 2 presents Hancock and Kelly.
Hey, good Sunday morning. Welcome to Hancock and Kelly on Fox 2, where we take on the top issues of the week. On the right is John Hancock.
Merry Christmas.
On the left, Michael Kelly.
Merry Christmas.
And I'm Andy Banker. On the agenda, the doctor is out. St. Louis County Executive Sam Page says he will not seek re-election next year. County officials wonder what took so long, given his indictment on criminal charges last summer. China, as in the nation of, sues the state of Missouri. How? Why? The H&K conversation returns. I sit down with the Republican candidate for Illinois Governor, Darren Bailey, who is staying in the race as his family endures an overwhelming loss. And in our quote of the week, a growing list of Republicans have had enough of President Trump after the president rips Hollywood filmmaker Rob Reiner in the wake of Reiner being stabbed to death. Also, the big freeze is Missouri's new gerrymandered congressional map aimed at eliminating another Democrat seat in Congress frozen into place. And Hawley for president in 28? We asked the Missouri senator point blank. But we begin with St. Louis County Executive Sam Page announcing that he will not run for re-election to the post he's held since 2019. He did not hold a news conference to announce it. He refused interviews, did not answer questions. Instead, he released a statement saying that he's made a decision that takes courage. He's been mired in controversy throughout his time in office, facing criminal charges for allegedly stealing county money to pay for campaign mailers to sway voters on a ballot issue. In 2022, county voters banned the full-time $140,000 a year executive from having a second job. That's Dennis Hancock, a guy he tried to run out of office. There's Brian Williams, a state senator. Those two, Hancock and Williams, are going to run for the seat, Republican versus Democrat. Now the field seems wide open with Page not in the race. Page, by the way, the doctor, an anesthesiologist, is still listed online as an employee of SLU Care. The state attorney general sued Page in 2021 over the county's COVID-19 shutdown policies. I mentioned the SLU Care, John and Michael, because there was a referendum while he was in office where county voters put some teeth into a law that said if you're county executive, the $140,000 a year job, that's the only job you can have. There's still some feeling out there that he's still working at a hospital. He's got a full year left in office. Where do we stand now? Should he resign? Is it enough already of Sam Page?
Well, that's his choice as to whether or not he wants to continue to move forward. He said in his statement that he wanted to try to find compromise and continue to work for St. Louis County. I just don't see it happening, Andy. We've been through the better part of 4 or 5 years now where this council is opposed to whatever this county executive is for. I'm not surprised that Sam Page chose not to run. I think there were some indicators, as we've said all along, that he wasn't raising any money. I think that the fact that he chose not to speak to the media, has said nothing, and only put out a statement shows that maybe he just wants to wither away into the shadows.
What do you think, John?
Well, I'm not one to toot my own horn, Andy, but I think I've been saying for months on this show that...
Did we mark the tape? I know you said he was not going to run.
I said he was not going to file for county executive, and sure enough, that's... it was right. But
how does history treat him in his tenure or regime?
Well, this whole chapter of the Stenger to Page era has been a tragedy for St. Louis County, and it's. I'm not saying just because of poor political leadership the region is losing population, but we are losing population. He leaves office with a pretty massive sized budget deficit, and you think the field's wide open, but this Williams guy he's put well into north of 6 figures in the bank already, and he's run a campaign. He's got a lot of support out there, and anybody else that wants to step into this field is going to be stepping in from way behind, and I suspect Brian Williams is going to be your Democratic nominee.
The nation of China is suing the state of Missouri for $51 billion. Fox 2's Mark Zinn reports from the state capitol that this would seem to be a retaliatory response to a $24 billion court judgment the state won against China in a COVID pandemic-related case filed by former state attorney general and now U.S. Senator Eric Schmidt.
And now, just as the state begins making efforts to collect that multi-billion-dollar sum, China is hitting back and doubling down with a $50 billion lawsuit filed against Missouri, along with Schmidt, Governor Mike Kehoe, former Attorney General Andrew Bailey, and current AG Catherine Hanaway, who told us earlier this week she isn't afraid of a legal fight with a foreign nation. Does that make it more difficult when you're going after a foreign entity?
Yeah, probably, especially one that has a committed purpose to attack and undermine the United States of America and its citizens and leadership.
China's suit alleges Missouri is damaging the reputation of the country, the city of Wuhan, and the ongoing research projects conducted in labs there.
Telling how they've reacted to this by going after sitting U.S. senators and former officials that made the case that they, lied to the world, and it cost Missouri a bunch of money in untold lives and livelihoods along the way.
And like Missouri's original lawsuit, it's not exactly clear how either side will be collecting judgments awarded. At the state capitol in Jefferson City, I'm Mark Zinn.
And Mark's last point there, John, is that the big takeaway here? Is this all just window dressing? Does it matter? Is anyone ever going to collect any money? Missouri suing China, China suing Missouri?
I doubt it. But I'll tell you, the politics of it are great for Hanaway and Schmidt and the governor.
Why?
Well, China's coming after you. That's especially in the Republican primary world. That's a win.
Michael, should we worry that Missouri is going to be forced to pay $50 billion plus to China?
No, this is all performative politics, and that's what it's been for Eric Schmidt, now Catherine Hanaway, and former Attorney General Bailey. It would be helpful if Eric Schmidt spent his time worried about the healthcare premiums that are about to double on everybody. But instead, he's focused on performative politics, and John's exactly right. This is all political nonsense to get attention so they can put it in a mail piece that China's after me. What's that even mean?
And will there be taxpayer money spent on defending this, even if it is a suit filed in China?
Probably some. I don't expect much to happen here, though.
Yeah.
Opponents of Missouri's new congressional map, approved at the urging of President Trump, claim the map is not currently in effect, even though the governor signed it into law. The new map splits the Democrat stronghold of Kansas City into Republican-leaning districts to meet the president's goal of eliminating a Democrat seat in Congress from Missouri. The group People Not Politicians held a briefing citing past Missouri Supreme Court decisions supporting their stance. They threw them up on the screen there for all of us to see during that briefing. The group has submitted more than 300,000 voter signatures to put the issue on the November ballot for voters to decide. The map's opponents argue that just turning in the signatures keeps the new map from taking effect before the election.
And I think there is a compact there with the voters that the citizens' supremacy is really recognized and put in the place it belongs by the courts.
However, Missouri's top election official, Republican Secretary of State Denny Hoskins, and Republican Attorney General Catherine Hanaway say the new map is essentially frozen into law right now. The new map, 7 Republican, 1 Democrat seats in Congress. John, who's right?
Well, I think, the map is a bill. It passes through the legislature. It's signed by the governor. It's the law. So the map that the legislature passed is the law. Now, a judge could hold that law, could lay it aside, could issue some kind of an injunction, perhaps, but that's not happened. So that map is the law. Now, they're going to litigate it, and at some point, eventually the Missouri Supreme Court will have to rule on whether or not it's legal. But it is the law, and I think a lot of this stuff that Mike Wolf, and I like Mike Wolf, but I think he's wrong about this.
Which map are we going to vote under in November 2026?
Well, we should be voting on the one that's most fair and represents most Missourians, which is the current map. The Republicans are playing these games to try to make sure that it's the other one. They don't want the voters to vote on this, Andy, because they know that the voters want to sustain the 7-1 split that takes place. So again, we're in the midst of Republican performative politics. This is what you have to do when you have a minority party that doesn't make much noise. You've got to go out and perform, and that's exactly what we're watching.
Yeah, one way or another, the courts are going to have to decide this thing. And they're either going to say that it's illegal, you can't redistrict mid-decade, or they're going to say it's legal, you can do it, but the people need to vote on it before the November election. It's going to resolve itself that way.
Right, and the People Not Politicians group say precedent shows that you wait when you get that many signatures and put it on the ballot, the new law doesn't take effect. Now, that's what they were arguing.
Yeah.
We'll see where it ends up come November of 2026. Up next on Hancock and Kelly, the Hancock and Kelly Conversation, my exclusive and at times emotional interview with Republican candidate for governor Darren Bailey. whose family is enduring enormous loss. He's running for governor in Illinois.
To hear more, listen to the podcast. Just search for Hancock and Kelly.
Former Illinois State Senator Darren Bailey was just kicking his campaign for governor into high gear when his son Zach, daughter-in-law Kelsey, and two of their children died in a helicopter crash in October. Bailey sat down with me this past week for our exclusive Hancock and Kelly conversation.
Your messages and your love have carried us, and we are so grateful. Our son Zach and his wife Kelsey lived with faith and purpose. We have an amazing family. We've got an amazing community, amazing church. There's been a lot of support, so we're doing good. Finn, our grandson, he's doing good.
He's tough. He's full of faith.
Darren Bailey and his wife Cindy are now raising their 10-year-old grandson Finn. Finn was not on board the helicopter his dad was piloting when it crashed in Montana, taking the lives of Finn's parents and his two siblings. The family lived in a house adjacent to Darren Bailey's home in Clay County, Illinois, about 100 miles east of St. Louis. And lately, Grandpa has been taking Finn's new puppy, Reagan, for walks.
A family wanted to give him a lab, and we accepted that a few weeks ago. So every night, if Finn's not there, if he's already in bed or at late night, I'll go out and walk Reagan, and I see the lights of Zach and Kelsey's house still on behind us, and yeah, you stand there and you wonder if it's still real. So.
In going through his son Zach's personal effects, he says there seemed to be a sign about whether he should stay in the governor's race.
I also discovered that he was contemplating a run for office in 2028 in Illinois as a state rep or a state senator. So that helped to know that he appreciated. He many times spoke for me on the campaign trail, and so that kind of opened up a door that we realized, wow.
Bailey says he's now focused on what he calls 80-20 campaign issues: education, crime, including the SAFE-T Act, which eliminated criminal suspects being held on bail. Also, the issue of affordability.
And what do people do when they come over here to Missouri to fill up their tanks? They go shopping, they go eat out. There's a lot of revenue that's being lost in Illinois because of that. In Illinois, you are literally paying as much or more in real estate taxes as you are on your mortgage. And that's what forcing people out of the state. Every time you see the sirens go down the streets, you realize somebody's life's being changed in some one way or another forever. Those are people. Illinois needs to start valuing people, over the system that's now in place. So the SAFE-T Act it's simply not working, and it has to go. We're running an 80-20 campaign. I must focus on the 80% that hurts all of us.
I cannot imagine.
Bailey says he appreciates that his political rival, Democrat J.B. Pritzker, attended the visitation for his lost loved ones. He also points to a letter and phone call from President Trump.
I so appreciated that in the midst of the busyness that I know that he had in front of him, that he was able to take 10 minutes out and call and express his condolences and his care and his love.
At the same time, he understands people's misgivings about the president's harsh criticism of Hollywood director Rob Reiner after Reiner and his wife were stabbed to death last weekend.
Yeah, there's things that are said, and it's just like, why? And I don't know why. We all have our vices. We all have the things that we struggle with. So whatever reason he decided to say what he said, I don't know. I've witnessed the compassionate side of him. I know it's there. The SAFE-T Act must be repealed.
He says he's learned from his own missteps from his failed 2022 run for governor.
Well, I was the one that coined Chicago in a debate as a hellhole. And I found out real quickly that that didn't resonate. People I love Chicago. Words bite, words hurt, and I think that I think this journey that we've been on the last 2 months, I feel like my compassion sensitivity has been heightened.
Who is your hero?
The heroes of the Bible that they talk about in Hebrews 11 have to be at the forefront of all of that. And after that, my dad has taught me to work hard so that we can play hard, and he's put the work ethic in me, the determination never to give up.
So I'm asking you stand with us, pray with us, fight with us.
If he wins the Republican primary in March, it'll be a rematch of the 2022 race, Pritzker versus Bailey. Pritzker beat him by about 12 points, but Bailey points out that only about 43% of the people actually turned out to vote. With higher turnout and dissatisfaction with Pritzker, does he have a chance?
Very steep hill. I mean, Illinois is just, it's baked in. Chicago's baked in, and Democrats win. And the last Republican to win statewide there was, I don't know, more than a decade ago.
Regardless of his politics, he certainly seems likable, given what he's gone through.
And how could you not have empathy for this man, listening to him tell that story and looking up the hill at a place that his son used to live? He's now raising his own son's grandson, his grandchild. I think it will definitely help get him some attention and a spotlight during this campaign. Unfortunately for him and his family, I think this will be a repeat of the last election, maybe even worse, because the Republicans are going to have a bad 2026.
So to come on Hancock and Kelly, growing talk here and nationally that Republican Senator Josh Hawley of Missouri is positioning for a White House run in 2028. And our quote of the week, you just heard Darren Bailey mention this, Republicans not standing by President Trump's roasting of Hollywood filmmaker Rob Reiner after Reiner was stabbed to death. Our quote of the week is in response to the unseemly quote from President Trump about Hollywood filmmaker Rob Reiner, who's been a Trump critic, shortly after Reiner and his wife Michelle were allegedly stabbed to death by their own son. In a social media post, the president said Reiner's death was likely the result of anger he caused others through what Mr. Trump calls a mind-crippling disease, Trump derangement syndrome. Our quote of the week is from Kentucky Republican Congressman Thomas Massie, who said, "I guess my elected GOP colleagues, the vice president, and the White House staff will just ignore the president's post because they're afraid. I challenge anyone to defend it." John and Michael, a number of Republicans are calling out the president about this. His chief ally from Missouri, Eric Schmidt, the U.S. senator, kind of sidestepped it, but he didn't defend it. What do you think?
Because there is no defense of it. And we continue to see on a daily basis that our president of the United States is not a decent human being. And anybody who read what he wrote after that tragic situation would have to come to the same conclusion.
John?
This is a family that got killed by their own child. I can't think of a more horrific set of circumstances. Not only was it altogether inappropriate, not only was it the least presidential thing maybe ever uttered in the history of this country, it showed evidence of the guy's not all there. I mean, you read that stream of consciousness and you can't conclude that that's a product of a sound mind.
An Axios report claims President Trump's advisors are furious with Missouri Senator Josh Hawley for starting a new pro-life anti-abortion campaign finance group with his wife Erin. The report says Trump allies see this as further sign that Hawley is positioning himself to run against Vice President J.D. Vance in the Republican presidential primary in 2028. My Fox 2 colleague Mick Bond asked Hawley about this straight up.
Nope, not going to happen, number one. And number two, it's all about speaking up for the family and protecting life, which is my passion and my wife's passion. And it's something that I hope that we'll be able to do together for a long time to come, Lord willing.
So no breaking news here with my interview that you're running for president?
No.
I don't know. Do you guys still feel like you're going to see him hanging out in Iowa and New Hampshire in the next 18 months?
Josh Hawley says one thing and does another. He wasn't going to be a ladder climber. Of course he's running for president, and the White House is going to learn, like everybody else, that this guy cares about nothing but himself.
He sounds like the source for Axios in the report.
Yeah. I don't think Josh Hawley is automatically going to run for president in 2028. He will be mid-cycle. He's not on the ballot in 28 as a senator. It would make some sense. I do think he's carved out a fairly unique niche within the populist movement of the Republican Party. So I wouldn't be shocked if he ran, but I'll take him at his word here.
Final thoughts are next. First, how great is this? Hordes of first responders lighting up the night outside of Cardinal Glennon Children's Hospital with young patients using phones and flashlights to respond from inside. They all sang Christmas carols together, too. I just love it. Final thoughts, Michael?
Yeah, Merry Christmas to you and your family, and I hope you enjoy the holidays all together as a collective group.
John?
Yeah, just a few more days. It will be Christmas morning, and we'll all enjoy yet another festive celebration. Merry Christmas to each and every one of you, from my family to yours. And to yours, Andy.
And to all of yours. I third that emotion, if you can do that. You can second it, right? But I just thirded it. Hey, program note, next week at 8:30, this same place, same time, we hope you'll join us for a special edition of Hancock and Kelly, the year in review. If it's Sunday in St. Louis, it's Hancock and Kelly on Fox 2. We'll see you then. Merry Christmas.